Good morning, good morning, good morning, guys. Good morning, guys. Thanks for joining me today. When a man loves a woman, I'll give you everything I would go. So hold on to your precious love. And baby, please don't treat me bad. When a man loves a woman, deep down in her soul, she can bring such misery. If she's blind or a fool, she is the last one to know. A loving eyes. Okay, good morning, everyone. How are you today? My name is Praise Forward and welcome to Pfthinks. This is episode 105. Right there about, yeah, I think 105th episode. So we've been doing this for 105 days and I'm so excited to have come your way again. Today, I'm live in direct. My Instagram audience, even though I promised you that I wasn't going to live stream today because I want to do an interview, but I'm trying to stream. So I'm sure you can watch it on the screen. But if you're on Facebook and on YouTube, you're live in direct with me. And for sometimes about 7 days, 8 days, thereabout, we've been running a series on co-parenting, the science or the process of co-parenting, and we've touched on a number of issues. We've looked at the negotiation process, breaking the bottlenecks. We've talked about moving from pain to responsibility. We've looked at how do you parent with a difficult ex, which was what I talked about yesterday, and I did promise that I was going to bring in a guest today. And so I'm excited that I have my girlfriend in the house. She's someone we've been friends for so many years, over 15 years thereabout. Someone I love so much, very hardworking, a thinker, very passionate. She's the lead consultant of the Peak Network. And if you talk about mental health, of course, she ranks very high all over Africa. And now she's taking a trade to the world. Make welcome with me, Priscilla Benjamin Olaoye. Priscilla, how are you?
I'm good.
Wow.
I'm good. Thank you for having me today, Praise. I deeply appreciate you.
Your skin is glowing. It's showing that I'm taking a very good care of you. I mean,
yes, I'm spending your money seriously.
I'm very humble, so tell the whole world that I'm the one taking care of you.
Yes. You should.
Okay. Well, we've been talking about co-parenting, especially when marriage breaks down. And one of the things I've established is the fact that while marriage is like a movie location with different scripts, with different rules, and when the movie breaks down, co-parenting is another location entirely with a different script, with a different rule, and the winner in co-parenting has to be the child. I noticed that there have been movements across the globe. For example, in America, the new fad is when couples want to break up, they no longer fight themselves dirty on social media the way we still do in
Privately.
Africa. I mean, they just sit down and say, we're going to separate with the explain to the children. And they even address a joint press conference. In fact, I think I've seen the founder of Mind Valley. He had a party with his ex to terminate their marriage, to say we're going our separate ways. And the children were there. And now they're still civil, no fight, no, you are a 1 minute man, no fight on social media. Right. What do you think is going on in Africa? Why have we not been able to move away from the fights, of the marriage is broken down, then the child now must be our next fight, and we use the child as a tool for bargaining, as a tool to get back at each other. Why do you think we have that problem as Africans?
Okay, so the question will probably not be why I think we have the problem, because I honestly have seen people again and again. Um, I've seen people again and again follow a trend. So probably the
Mm,
question will not be why we do it, but because honestly, I've also seen us always identifying the problem but not showing how, or what substitute can be created. So I would rather think, in my little area of experience, that you find a lot of people following a trend. Not only do you find them following a trend, people seem to be loyal to what they do not understand.
mm,
And I can give you an example: the feminist movement. You hear
aha,
everybody throw the word around, oh, I'm a feminist, without thoroughly investigating what feminism is about. You
mm,
cannot follow what you do not understand. That shows a deep, deep fundamental problem with you.
mm,
Whatever you cannot understand, whatever you cannot defend, whatever you cannot bear the consequences of, then you should not follow. And that is what I see, as to what's going on. And you see this play out in our everyday life. You see this play out in the way we digest information. Let me give you a quick example. Forwarded WhatsApp messages. Somebody
mm,
sees a message, oh, Riyad Bonke is dead, without fact finding, without any form of due diligence. We just share forward. That tells you,
mm,
and that also shows in the absence of investigative journalism that we have in our country. So
mm,
it's just that loads of people are mentally lazy.
mm,
I tried to avoid that word, but I don't
mm.
think there is any way I
No, no, it's not an
can,
insult. It's
I
not an
can, there's
insult.
no better way to say it.
Mm,
So it's the fact that we love to be loud,
mm,
so we are loud but not deep.
mm,
So we wanna win arguments rather than fact checking. So you see two
mm,
people argue over something, they're just looking for what's the word they use on Twitter? Who is more savage,
mm,
rather than who is sharing more facts. You
mm,
get it. So I would think that that it is highly observable that the reason you see on us latching onto trends is because we're not willing to do our own findings to then have a deep belief in what we do. And that shows in how it shows in our staying power for
mm.
whatever we proclaim or confess to believe in. You see that the
Mm.
staying power is very short. That's
Yeah.
because no fact finding has been done, all right, to truly understand the principles of that situation. So I just follow it because it's a trend. Without totally understanding what it means and the consequences that it bears. So
Wow.
that's about it in my opinion.
Okay. You have touched on a number of issues, Priscilla, but I want to go delve into what I have to discuss there. But before I go in there, the issue in Nigeria, what is trending right now is calm down, calm down. Just like you said, we never fact find. I know you're not in the country at the moment. So a boy was live streamed by the mom, apparently trying to discipline or punish the boy. And the boy is saying, "Mommy, calm down." The boy is crying and he's saying, "Will you do it again?" And blah, blah, blah. And now the governor of Lagos has invited the boy, and people are celebrating that as a testimony. And nobody, I mean, and you know how long we fought for child against child abuse in Lagos, around Nigeria. You know how many years, I mean, we are putting into this work. And now, when this video came out, we put a post to say this is gross child abuse. I mean, in civilized countries, the mother will be, I mean, arrested,
With social
will be,
services.
I mean, with social services. But now people are saying, "Oh, we are bad belly people." You know, the governor has endorsed the boy. And I mean, what exactly is going on? Wherein there's a craze. Everything in our life now is on social media. So we put up a child that is crying, and then we live stream it, and we say it's. I mean, from a psychological point of view, what are the effects this kind of situation is likely going to have in the child, since we know that the internet never forgets? And what is your response to, I mean, this news?
That's so many. I saw the video actually, and so many things were running through my mind. So that is you not protecting a child in his most vulnerable state. And that was what I found troubling. The child, was not protected in the most vulnerable state. That boy was so vulnerable at the time, that for a child, I mean, that boy should not be more than 5 years, in my
Yeah,
opinion, right? It's about that age.
yeah.
And honestly, he broke my heart when he went on his knees,
Mm,
right? Say, "Mommy, just give me that last chance." So people could view this in many ways. One, from the perspective of humor,
mm,
right? So, and oftentimes we say that one of the coping mechanisms. There are so many skills required for coping with traumatic events. So in
mm,
the emotion, so there's the problem focus strategy, the emotion focus strategy, there's the appraisal. There are so many of them. But you see, with the emotion focus strategy, humor is one of the tools in dealing with stressful events. So
mm,
if this boy, for example, if it is the narrative of humor that is
mm,
used to help the boy see that, oh, this was so humorous, I did it because this was humor, this was da 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 da, then it may help the boy cope. But
mm,
if the boy then is looking at it from the point of view of being being exposed, and this
mm.
boy does not have the capacity to look at it from one view now,
Yeah.
right? However, I heard in that video him say, "Mommy, what are you doing? Are you videoing me?"
Mhm,
Right? So he articulated a concern.
mm,
So is he ready for the exposure? The people who are around him, what is the narrative that is being driven around that boy?
mm,
Such that he's able to attach whatever meaning. You
mm.
you get what I mean? So you
Yeah.
see, what so left or right, there is no way, because psychology also does not predict a human being's life. We can
Mm,
only give, possibilities, so you get what I mean. So, but you cannot, straightforward or straight jacket say that this is what, but we can say that these are the possible implications. All right.
mm,
So I would think that it's based on how, the narrative. I was there's a client I'm handling at the moment, and that client was sharing with me, how at a very early age, at about 5 or 6, that client was sharing with me how he had to repeat nursery 3 or so rather than go to primary 1, had to, and said that at that early age, that was the first time he would understand the meaning of the emotion shame, because he
mm,
saw his classmates move on to primary 1 and he couldn't move on. So you see,
mm,
his delicate young mind understood the emotion or the concept of shame. And we
mm,
know that shame, of course, a child can identify shame from a very young age, from 2. A child can identify shame. So if that is the meaning, if that's the narrative that is ingrained or, driven or drilled into the young man, then that into the young boy, then that will become a colossal opportunity,
mm,
for disaster in future. But if it is from the angle of humor, that probably could give a cushioning effect to what is
Mm.
going on. But I do not subscribe in any way to what has happened. I'm just saying that, that's what the possibilities are. I do not subscribe to it. I always advocate for supportive discipline when dealing with a child. But what stood out for me specifically was that that boy was vulnerable and he was exposed in his most vulnerable state, which, in my opinion, is a no-no.
Okay, thank you, Priscilla. Now we go into co-parenting with a difficult spouse. Now, I have done an introduction and laid the background and proposed some solutions yesterday. But the buzzword in Nigeria right now is the word narcissist. Any man who is in a difficult marriage with a woman is perceived as a narcissist. Now, I know that if someone has not been clinically diagnosed, it will be unprofessional and wrong to use that word. So what people do is, and a lot of people teach it, they go online, read about narcissism, and look at the behavior. And once a certain behavior aligns with what they've read, then the word becomes a label for the man. Now, question: who is a narcissist? Is there anyone that is absolutely a narcissist? How do you identify? What is the process of diagnosis of a narcissist? And what is the difference between a narcissist and a difficult spouse or a troubled spouse, especially in a co-parenting situation?
That's your question. The difference. So a difficult person is a difficult person, and there are so many dynamics that could be going on in there for somebody to be difficult. I mean, it could be as a result of immature emotions, because some people are not emotionally mature enough to handle certain emotions, or handle some cognitive processes. So, for example, somebody may not be mature enough to confront a problem, but would rather regress back into a childlike behavior so that he or she can cope with that stressful event. All right, so we call that regression. So there are so many dynamics that could be in this mix. But in directly answering your question, who is a narcissist? And should we say because somebody is difficult, then the person is termed a narcissist? The simple, straightforward answer to that is no. You see, we have about 12, basically about 12, but 3 clusters of personality disorders. And narcissism is a type of personality disorder. Now, so in psychiatry, we say that, or in psychology, we say that there are certain mental health challenges or emotional challenges that, so let me use the word mental, because emotional health is different from mental health. So we say that, there are, in mental health, there are 2 major types of illnesses. Now, there are those types of illnesses that, depersonalizes you, that does not make you be in touch with reality, makes you talk irrationally. When you lose yourself. There are also types of illnesses or mental health disorders that you generally live your normal life, but you're going through a lot. Personality disorders they are in that category where you live your life. Nobody seems to think that there is anything wrong with you, but there is something wrong with you, if that makes sense. Right. Yeah. So these neurotic disorders, as we call them, personality disorders is one of those types of challenges where you're dealing, but you're still living your life, except that people find out that this person probably something is going on with you or whatever. And examples of those, for example, a personality disorder, for example, is the OCPD. So the obsessive compulsive personality disorder. That's a personality disorder. We have the histrionic disorder, where the person is just overly dramatic. The person is, you call people drama queen or drama queens. They use their beauty or they are driven by their looks. When they enter a room, they want you to notice them. So these are, we call them the histrionic. They're filled with drama. Everything has to be so dramatic and all of that. So I don't want to go into, into different types of personality disorders, but I want to speak specifically to narcissism. So narcissism is a type of personality disorder. And usually you do not say that an individual has a personality disorder except they have gone through the personality assessment. Now, I also don't want us to get this mixed up, because there are so many personality assessments flying all around. I'm not talking of the Myers-Briggs, or that's not what I'm talking about. It's totally different. I'm talking about, the personality assessment that is done in the clinical area. So there are certain indicators that show that an individual is either battling with antisocial personality, where he or she does not like to conform with authority, where he or she is pretty destructive, where, so you cannot make a diagnosis of one being narcissistic if the person has not done, and there are several assessments that are used to actually narrow down to say that, okay, the type of personality disorder you're dealing with is narcissism. Now, in a diagnostic manual, there are criteria for an individual to say to be a narcissistic person. For example, the person is overly what's the word now? Is overly, has how do you use a particular word? Over exaggerated sense of self.
Yeah.
Exaggerated. So, we call it being grandiose. So the person has this grandiose feeling of self-importance. Nobody's as important as me. I'm the most important person in the room. When I get anywhere, everybody has to stand still for me. I have to be the most important person in the conversation. Attention has to always be on me. So there is that grandiose or overrated sense of self or intelligence and all of that. The person is also preoccupied with fantasies about their brilliance, about their sense of power, about their beauty, and they are particular about the kind of status that they have to roll with. So narcissistic personalities, naturally will not roll with people they think are not in the same class with them. And let's also be very careful, so these are the indicators. However, it's a combination of several other things. And usually we'll say that there are certain indicators that must tick. I'm just saying that this is just an overview of what they look like, before. And usually when we say these things, it's not so that we're able to label an individual. It is so that you could probably suspect and then refer to a professional to make a proper clinical judgment. It's called clinical judgment. So the person has an overrated sense of entitlement. The person just feels entitled to respect, feels entitled to whatever belongs to any other person because he or she feels special, right? So if you are sharing food, you have to give them in a special plate. If you are whatever, like there is a way you have to serve them. There's a way you have to talk to them. In fact, there's a way you have to address them. And this is beyond pride. So there's the place of pride, but there's this overrated sense of self. So they feel the need for excessive admiration. You have to keep telling them how fantastic they are, how good they are. And honestly speaking, a lot of men of God are on this table. Where if you've not hailed them, the God of this, and they're just on that high chair, So these kind of people naturally would seek for fame. They would naturally seek for high positions. They would naturally seek for places where they are being worshipped and adored, in the technical sense. They lack empathy. That's another key indicator. So a narcissist is almost unemotional. They are emotional sensitive. So when somebody is crying beside them, they don't understand why you're crying. So they speak to you in a manner because they believe that they are elevated gods. Yeah. And they don't expect you to take offense. And they don't even understand why you're getting emotion. They don't understand emotions. They are confused. So they naturally lack empathy, for people around them. So they drive you till, because they feel entitled. So if they pay your salary, they drill you to the end, right? They also, so this is very interesting for me about narcissists. They envy people.
Hmm. Hmm.
They envy people. So it's so you would not believe that somebody who technically has a sense of power is
Hmm.
suddenly envying someone. But now this is the twist to it. Not only do they envy people, they believe that people are envious of them.
Hmm.
You see,
Wow.
you see the very interesting, mix. So they
Yeah.
believe that people are, so they are very arrogant, and they have a brush off kind of attitude. So,
Hmm.
so they live in this bubble, if there is a no better way to put it. And that's technically just sums up what you would call someone who is battling a narcissistic personality disorder. So there are people who literally, so you could use the word narcissist in the literal sense,
Hmm.
right? But for you to say that someone has a narcissistic personality disorder, then it has to be from a place of clinical judgment.
Good. Now, can a woman be a narcissist? Because every time this word has been used, it's been used for men. Can a female be in? Because you hardly hear. I'm not sure I've had that in Nigeria at all. Yeah, every time I hear the words, I mean, when people have family life problems and they come to me, what I hear is my husband is a narcissist. My husband is a narcissist. I hardly hear, and you have touched on a number of things that would look like maybe a choleric personality, without necessarily being narcissistic. Because from what you have described right now, a narcissist does not have the capacity to even work under any authority because he feels it's the authority, right? So someone may have
No, it
issues.
will work under authority, but
Okay,
I mean, it's going to be a roller coaster.
okay,
Because
good.
if he
Now,
or she works under authority, the person has to be the center of attention of the time. The person has to keep shining. You have to keep
uh,
recognizing their work and their effort.
good. So it means that you can have a guy who maybe for cultural reason doesn't think his wife is anything, right? And tries to dominate her. But the same guy functions in another place where he submits absolutely to the authorities, but his wife might look at him and say, this guy is a narcissist, I mean, without necessarily being. But the question is, can a woman be a narcissist?
Yes, we have male and female narcissists. Narcissism is not the
It's not gender centered.
is not strictly a masculine challenge. However, we have more males, who are
Okay.
dealing, just like the antisocial personality disorder. We have more males having antisocial personality disorder than females. There are also some personality disorders that we have more females battling such disorder. For example, we have the borderline personality disorder, BPD. But
Mm,
the borderline personality disorders, we have more females, who are dealing with borderline, and that's because a large percentage of people who are dealing with borderline personality disorder have experienced sexual abuse,
mm,
right?
mm,
So there are certain just like the historic personality disorder as well, it's more common in females. So these are statistics that research has shown that just like some mental illnesses or some physical health challenges, it will say that it's predominant in this gender than this gender. But that's not to mean that you would it's exclusive to a particular gender. So we have, yes, we do have women who are dealing with narcissistic personality disorder.
Now, a narcissist who has been clinically diagnosed, do they need, what kind of treatment do they need, or what kind of therapy do they need? Do they need deliverance? Do they
Oh,
need,
the
do they need, do they need some prescription? Or because what I hear is, and I see people teach it in the religious circle, that when you are dealing with a narcissist, you need to get out of their life, you need to live their life, else they're going to drain you and blah, 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 blah. And a lot of that is online. Someone who has been clinically diagnosed as a narcissist, is it a
yeah.
hopeless situation? Is it that they cannot totally change, they can be treated? Or what kind of treatment is needed for such a person?
Okay, so typically it's not something you take a pill and and then it's the So most personality disorders are dealt with via psychotherapy, and that's talk therapy.
Yeah.
So there are different psychotherapies or talk therapies that the individual could benefit from. The individual could benefit from individual psychotherapy. The individual could benefit from group therapy, right? And honestly, we then also want to know if there is a comorbid. Comorbid means existing together with another illness. So if there is any form of comorbidity, then you also would want to deal with that other comorbid challenge. But without that, it's something that therapy can care for. However, it's a behavioral challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, so and when it comes to a behavioral challenge, so it means that you're taking a look at behavioral modification therapies. You're looking at sometimes if there is some cognitive challenges in there, you also put that in the mix. But I typically would recommend what we call the eclectic. Sorry, the yes. The dialectic approach when it comes that you just a bit from here, a bit from there, a bit from here, a bit from there, and basically use. But yes, they can be helped, and it's
Fantastic.
typically with psychotherapy.
Now, in a situation where you're married to one, let's say marriage has failed and now we're in a co-parenting situation, can their spouses or their ex, can they be trained or coached, into how to handle them? Or because, I mean, again, like I said, what you hear is get out of their life, don't allow them access to you, don't allow them access to the child. Can there be strategic intervention to coach the spouse, their ex, on how to handle them and win with them in a way that can promote the best interest of the child?
Okay, so honestly speaking, I can tell you this, that when your partner suffers, you suffer.
Hmm.
Yeah, when your partner suffers, you suffer. And when I mention supportive therapies, as part of what happens, we don't have a lot of support groups, but it's
Hmm.
encouraged that someone who is dealing with this joins a support group, because there are
Hmm.
other people who've also been diagnosed who you can share, who are in recovery, who are trying to cross their hurdles and all of that, and you can share experiences. So as much
Hmm.
as there is this support group, there's also support group for spouses of
Hmm.
individuals who are narcissistic. So but yes, there is a rub off as to some of the things that they're dealing with, because the person will consistently hurt his or her partner,
Hmm.
and there could be loads of toxicity in that relationship if they do
Hmm.
not seek help in dealing with it. So yes, that you see why I said also that there is no straight cut, because at a point in time, for some, they would require family therapy.
Uh-huh.
So they require family or marital therapy. So
Hmm.
and this is the reason why we don't like to give umbrella answers, because every case is dealt with individually, depending
Yeah.
on what is going on, the dynamics of that relationship, how bad things have gone, what is destroyed, what is repairable, how much work are both parties willing to put into recovery. So
Hmm.
that also is being determined. But yes, when one partner is dealing, the other partner, is deeply hurt as well. So because when one party suffers, the other party suffers as
Thank
well.
you. Thank you very much, Priscilla. You have really, really helped me today. But before I let you go, now, in this, marriage is broken down and now it's a co-parenting situation. Um, I mean, what would be your advice or professional counsel to people who had a terrible breakup and now they have to co-parent? The court has ruled that there should be joint custody and they have to co-parent, but someone is bitter. I mean, how that be on the child, and what should people learn to do? I mean, given the fact that, I mean, we thank God that even Nigerians are learning to now come for therapy. They're now learning because before now it's deliverance. right? So it's the awareness is still not there, so everything is attributed to a devil, there's a demon. So let us cast out, let's go to a war room, prayer mountain, and all this kind of thing. What is your professional counsel for people who had a terrible breakup but they have to co-parent? What do they need to do, and what kind of help is available?
So the help available, especially for moving on, is nothing but counseling, honestly. But when you have to co-parent, if you have not dealt with what is most painful for you about your breakup, then that is going to be really tough. So as much as you've separated from your partner, you have to ask yourself, what's my greatest regret about breaking up? What hurt me the most about separation? You have to ask that question, because what we do is that we lump up the whole process. We lump up the whole breaking up thing and we say, oh, we separated and we are both bitter or we're both resentful. But no, that's not it. The level of emotional investment that either of you have put into relationship will determine how deeply hurt you become, or your capacity to see a future. So if one party is able to see a future that is beautiful, you see the party will be less resentful. But when one party is not able to see, when one party says, I've just wasted my life with this person, now where do I start from? So it's almost as if the person is stuck. That person has a tendency to be more resentful. Now, you see that is a journey that nobody can go for you. And that is, a quagmire that nobody can fully unravel except you're willing to go through the process. In answering the question now about co-parenting, while you are in all of that mess in your mind, you will genuinely, not because you don't love your children, but you will genuinely not see the children. And you will, and I'm telling you this, also from experience, from my own parents, you will genuinely not see the children, because at the time you will believe you are doing the best for that child. So both parties are, saying that they love their children, but their actions are saying otherwise, because they genuinely cannot see the import of their behavior on their children. So there is no argument as to the fact that you both love your children. But what I call good may not be what you call good. So there may be a disparity between what we call best for the children. And that is going to be the point of grievance. So and you see, we already know without any soothsayer that childbearing and child discipline, parenting methods are a major strain on relationships, even for people that love one another, even for couples that are together. Style of parenting is a major strain, that causes a separation between couples. So that tells you that what is good is relative. Now imagine when you are in sync, when you still have the room for communication to say that this is what, let's both agree that this is what we should do. But when communication has been cut off and there is no opportunity to bargain, there is no opportunity to dialogue, there's no opportunity to compromise, there's no opportunity to meet one another halfway, because you are not communicating at all, because you cannot see eye to eye, that makes it even difficult, right? So it's not about co-parenting with a difficult spouse, because some people are good fathers and mothers but bad spouses.
Yeah.
You see, so that's why it's responding to that question. Honestly speaking, I will just say to whoever is battling separation, ask yourself, what is it about this breakup that really hurts me? What is my greatest regret about this breakup? Is there anything I can do about it? Is there a way I can compartmentalize what I'm dealing with? So let me compartmentalize our breakup. Let me separate it from raising our children. But I want anybody listening to know that it's tough seeing your child when you're hurting. And when I say seeing your child, I'm talking about understanding the emotional needs of that child at the time, because the individual
Yeah.
already is overwhelmed with pain and hurt. So that becomes more difficult
Mm.
for you to truly see your child or hear your child's cry for help, right?
Okay.
So if you can compartmentalize, that is beautiful. But at the end of the day, what you call difficult may not be what somebody else calls difficult. In fact, I keep telling you that um, people say bad energy stay far away. But honestly speaking, sometimes we are the bad energy. Sometimes it's not, that individual that is bad energy. Sometimes we are the bad energy. And this has a major import. This has a major import on the way we view things or see people. So you have to be sure that you're in a good place before you can then judge that the other person is the problem. And if we can take away this mindset of blame, even in our everyday conversation, you hear things like that. You didn't call me. This one will not say, you too, when I didn't call you, why did you call me back? So it's easy. So in our everyday conversation, it's easy to trade, who is at fault, who is wrong. If we can heal from that, don't try to say this is the person at fault. If you continue to say that, oh, this is the person that is difficult, you will not ask yourself what your role is in the situation.
Mm.
So rather than, so you see why I don't want to say this is what you should do or this is what you should do. Ask
Yeah.
yourself, what is my contribution to this? And what is the best I can do without seeing that person I term difficult in the picture? What is the best for my child at this time? And this position that I'm taking, am I taking it from a place of absolute restoration or I'm taking it from a place of pain?
Thank you very much, Priscilla. Before I let you go, two in one, right? How can people reach you? I think I need you to drop your social media handles. Maybe there's a phone, there's an email you want to drop if people want to have access to your services. Mind you, my audience, she's not cheap. She's one of the best, so be ready to pay. But I guarantee you of absolute professionalism and top-notch services. She's my personal therapist. I love to tease her all the time, but she says to me that I'm a client who never pays. Anyway, Priscilla, a lot has been said about forgiveness, forgiveness, and that's the final word I want from you. Now, there's a school of thought that believes just pray fast and ask God to deal with your heart, then go and call the person. That's
Mm-mm, mm-mm. No, that's not how it works. That's not how forgiveness works. And honestly speaking, we need to understand this concept of
yes,
forgiveness. That's not how
yes.
forgiveness works at all.
Mm,
The fact that you're forgiving somebody is not to mean you will forget. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is not to mean that you become as close as you used to be.
mm,
That's not it. But I want to say this very carefully. I mean, coming back, this I want to
yeah.
say it very carefully. And I always use an analogy. And the analogy I use is, okay, so what's quickest for me to use? Okay, so this right here, I pack of cards, right? And then I've got this on it. And then
Mm,
let's say, for example, I have this on top of the pen. I'm just trying to,
mm,
improvise here. So my point is, when we say that the fact that you are forgiven does not mean that you become yummy yummy with the person. I'm trying to explain. A lot of
yeah.
times when someone hurts us, you know what we do? Let's imagine that all of this together is a friendship. You know what we do? We throw the whole of this away. We throw it away,
Mm, mm,
right? But that's not the way it's
mm,
supposed to be. Research has established that people who find it difficult to repair a relationship
mm,
after hurt or pain are less likely to be emotionally healthy than those who repair.
mm, mm, mm.
Why? Because when you build deep connection, you release oxytocin, which
Uh-huh.
is the hormone responsible for bonding.
Mm,
And the more oxytocin that you release, right? The more oxytocin you release, the more healthier you are because you are able to have a deep sense of connection with other people. But people then seek to look for short-term happiness, because so when I'm with a particular person, I feel good because I release dopamine, right? But that is short-lived. It's unlike when I build a deep connection. So you could be with so many people that seem to be your friend, but you're not deeply connected with any. Then you feel alone. That's the danger. So my point is that if you seek to repair, you are more likely to be emotionally healthy than the person who is not seeking repair. Back to analogy, because I needed to give that foundation so that I'll explain this. So back to analogy, what we do is that we take the whole relationship because the person has offended us, we discard it. Now, back to the principle of repairing. The principle of repairing says that as much as you have hurt me, right, what I need to do is to replace layer by layer. That is in repairing. So you identify that this person has hurt you. The person probably apologizes, says, I will not do it again. But there is a protective layer, right? So you start, you don't throw everything away. You begin to replace it layer by layer and continue to test. So you start with this, give it some time, then you put the other layer on it. Give it some time. You continue to test it because you, who is throwing somebody out of your life, has also not been excellently good to other people.
True.
And you have hurt people deeply, even when you never meant it. But because you are the one that sees your own heart, you are able to vouch for yourself that you genuinely did not mean any harm.
Yeah.
But it then becomes difficult to extend such level of graciousness to the other person. So research has established that people who make an attempt to repair tend to be more emotionally stable and healthy than those who don't make any attempts. So that is what I want to say about forgiveness. So in forgiving, as much as I said that while you are forgiving someone, it's not to mean that you'll be yummy again. It's not to mean that you throw everything away. You see why I had to explain that? So you then have to do it layer by layer. But in forgiveness, generally, for you to know you've forgiven somebody, you will not withhold any good that you naturally will have done for them when you were good. If things were good between you, you see an opportunity. If you find yourself restraining from giving that person the opportunity, you are still not forgiven.
True.
If you find that every time that person is mentioned, there is still something that boils up inside of you, something you cannot explain. Sometimes nothing is boiling inside of you, but you just see that you are numb towards that person. Indifference is not forgiveness. I don't care whatever happens to you, whether good or bad. When you are indifferent, then you're in a state of numbness. You should be able to articulate exactly where you are. So that is my submission in terms of forgiving who or what. And I will always say this again and again. Not forgiving someone is like stabbing yourself in the heart and expecting the other person to fall down and die. You're stabbing yourself in the chest, but you're expecting the other person to be bleeding. That is what unforgiveness is. You are not hurting anybody but yourself. That's a cliche, and I honestly do not do cliches. But I think that analogy should help somebody. It's like you're taking poison and expecting the other person to die. That is what it's like, because the person continues to rent space in your head. That's what honestly it looks like.
Social media handles and how can people reach you?
My social media handle is Psyche Inspire, Psyche Inspire, Psyche. Your Psyche, spell Psyche and put Inspire beside it. That's my Instagram handle. Psyche, Psyche, then Inspire. Psyche Inspire is my Instagram and Twitter handle. And you could reach any of our websites. I mean, I'm the founder of the Peak Network. Send an email using through the website. It would reach us, and they'll forward it to my personal email, or you reach me at priskaolaoye at gmail.com. Those are my Instagram.
Thank you very much, Priscilla, for joining me. I have had a good time. I mean, I always tell people, when I say I have a therapist, people don't believe. And I say to people, every therapist needs a therapist. Every coach needs a coach, right? When I am having a meltdown, this is where I run to And I remember I bottled up so many things. I didn't know how to grieve because I was trying to be man, 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 man. And one day I broke down. And Priscilla was like, "How do you cope with pain?" And I realized I've been avoiding and evade pain, and then it was from her I learned how to become very vulnerable and begin to, unpack some of the pains I feel. Thank you, Priscilla, for all you do for humanity. I really, really appreciate you, and thanks for coming on the show. All right.
Yeah.
So,
And honestly, Praise, because you said that, I genuinely have a burden for people who are caring for others. And I can say this because I am one. So you see someone who is doing a lot of work. So Praise can take the whole world on his head while neglecting himself.
I do.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's this huge concern for people who are caring for other people. And I just remember that we're having an event tomorrow, Friday. Tomorrow is Friday in your time, right?
Yeah, in Nigeria.
So yes. So Friday we're having an event on YouTube. It's going to be streamed live on YouTube and on our page, the Pick Network page. We're supporting the supporter. We are caring for the caregiver. There are people who have spouses who are dealing with emotional issues, because you asked that question.
Yeah.
For his so there are spouses who are dealing with the family members who the person who is dealing with something does not even know there's a problem, and you are saying, let's go and seek help. The person is not responding to you, right? There are people who are parents of teenagers who are abusing substances. There are so we have seasoned panelists, one from the US and 3 others from Lagos, and we're having a 1-hour Q&A session on what you can do as a supporter to support yourself and care for yourself, because research discovered that people who are caring for others tend to die faster than the person who is ill. So we don't want, we don't want you to lose all. We want you and we will say the caregiver's prayer, because there is actually a caregiver's prayer. And you expose people to all that they need to know about what it means to be a caregiver and the support they can give themselves on caregiving. That event is happening on Friday the 31st.
Okay, thank you very much.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Okay, Nigerian time. That will be about 11 or no, about 1 p.m. American time. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Priscilla, for joining us, and thank you everyone for joining the show today. This is Pfthinks. Tomorrow we return, God's willing, and we continue. Will be episode 106, and we will continue this discussion. Thank you, Priscilla, for joining us all the way from the US. I really, really appreciate you, and all of you. Keep loving, keep living. Let's heal the world, and let's make the world a better place. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.